Hey guys, Grant here. I want to tell you all about my friends at Black Bear Inn and Suites of Gatlinburg who are making it possible to bring this episode to you. As you guys know, I grew up in East Tennessee, and there are two things that all East Tennesseans have in common. We all love the Vols, and we all love the Smoky Mountains. Since I've moved to Nashville, I've been unable to get my Smoky Mountain fix in, but thankfully, our friends at Black Bear Inn and Suites of downtown Gatlinburg have me covered. They are conveniently located at 1100 Parkway and are within walking distance of all the major attractions and best food that downtown Gatlinburg has to offer. To book your Smoky Mountain getaway today, visit blackbeargatlinburg.com or call 865 436 5656 or toll free at 1 800 933 0777.
Welcome to this edition of the Vawlin Out podcast. I'm your host Jordan, here with my co-host Grant Williams. How you doing tonight, man?
Man, Jordan, I'm good, man. I wish Tennessee would have shown up in the first half and maybe everybody would have hit that cover on that spread you were talking about this morning on the live show.
Buddy, I did say, though, take the points.
You did. You said buy it down. And I told everybody, I said, no, 16 safe. Well, sorry, guys. Tweet at me, mean. You see my name over here on the bottom. Tweet at me. I don't care. But, man, I'm good. How are you doing, brother?
Buddy, I'm great. That being said, we're both happy as a lark tonight. We got the win in Memorial Gym. So
yeah, tough place to play over there, man. Kind of like what I said on the live show earlier today. If you guys didn't catch it, it's still up on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. So go check that out. But I did say, that place is just really, really tough to go play. For whatever reason, Tennessee has always struggled in that gym. And it kind of showed again in the first half right there. But luckily, Tennessee has a guy named Dalton Connect.
Yes, very luckily.
Yeah.
Well, man, tonight we're going to talk about the Doors and Vols. We're going to break down the game. We're going to give our player of the game, put somebody on the Vawlin Out Milk Carton, take a trip around the SEC, and we're going to play some start bench cut.
Yeah, we're going to do that with Andrew whenever he's on here with us later from Locked On Gamecocks. So
yes,
make sure you guys tune in for that second segment right there to check that out. But man, you want me to dive us into this?
Buddy, we got a full slate tonight, so let's get into it.
All right. Well, in this game today, the Tennessee Volunteers did win this one by a final score of 75-62. Kind of like what I mentioned before we started on this. Tennessee did not play a good first half at all. I mean, the free throw shooting was just abysmal. Tennessee only had 8 attempts at the line and made 4 of them in that game. 3-point shooting was abysmal as well, 2 of 8, which is kind of surprising to me because a team like Tennessee shouldn't just be shooting 8 3-pointers in the first half. I mean, just kind of odd for me right there. But Tennessee did shoot 44.4% from the field, with that going 12 of 27. A couple things really stood out to me in this first half, other than the free throw shooting. Tennessee didn't have an answer for Ezra Mannion early in this game, and it really showed. He was able to do what he does normally, and it really caused a lot of problems for Tennessee. Second half, Tennessee really locked him down and held him to only 2 points for the entire second half. But in this game, man, I mean, Ezra Mannion, he ended up scoring 12 points in the first half. Just kind of crazy right there. Big number for the kid over there.
Yeah, that was one thing. I will be up front with everybody. I had to catch the second half on my phone. So most of what I seen tonight comes from the first half, but I caught what I could at the gym tonight for basketball. But man, it seemed like Tennessee got out to a really slow start and just in the first half, and they never got it going in that first half. But I also don't want to take anything away from Vanderbilt. They played them tough on defense. I mean, we scored 30 points in the first half.
Well, here's the thing on this too. I mean, Dalton Connect, he had 11 points in that first half, but nobody else showed up. Jonas had 6, Gainey had 5, Ziegler only had 4, Vescovy only had 2, and Triple J, big old fat goose egg, not just for the first half, but for the entire game. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go into this. the breakdown of the game and get to the second half, but just really rough right there. Another thing that really stood out to me as well, these officials were just god awful. Whoever that dude was with the pink whistle, man, what is he doing? He called that tech on Rick on something that was a horrible play call. I mean, the guy got fouled. Rick was upset about it, and they didn't call it. And then he teed up Rick. I don't understand how you can tee up Ricky Dale. I don't. He's a deacon, man. I mean, if he's cussing at you, it's for the Lord. That's how I'd look at it right there.
Right. Well, that's how Ricky Dale looks at it too, because it's easier to ask for forgiveness.
It sure is, man. But
You
the
know,
refs were horrible, and that was Rick's second technical foul of the season. I'm not sure if you guys remember. I didn't. I had to hit the Google machine to kind of find this one right here. But Rick got technical foul in the Purdue game out in Maui. So that's his second of the year. He got one in the Sweet 16 game against FAU as well for fussing at Euros Ploshit. So there's no telling what he said to Euros for the ref to tee him up on that. I mean, there may have been a couple of choice words in there that 4 letters and not good for radio. So Grant's not going to say that. But
right.
Rick, man, he's coaching his hind parts off this year. I mean, I've never seen Rick Barnes like this, and it's because he knows how special this team can be. But man, diving into the second half right here as well. The free throw woes were there for the entire game. I mean, kind of talking about what Tennessee did at the free throw line, you only shot 50% for the entire game from the line, which is just not going to do it. Hashtag HYFT was not 50%. I'm sorry, 63%. Stupid. I don't know math. Tennessee education, that's what I'm going to call it right there. But 63.6% from the free throw line, 14 of 22. That's not good enough. And Tennessee was the second best team in the conference going into this game today from the free throw line. And we're going to start to see that number go down, in my opinion, after the piss poor performance from the line today.
Yeah, they didn't. They just, to me, it seems like they're so streaky on that free throw line, man. Like they'll go for weeks and shoot well, and then whenever it just like one day they just up and decide, well, we're not going to hit our free throws tonight.
Yeah. And I mean, that was really in full effect here today. Like I said, the Volunteers scored 75 points in this game. Kind of diving into what some of the players did. Jonas Adu, 9 points, 10 rebounds once again, 1 point away from the double-double, but he did have 2 steals and 2 blocks that were just, I mean, hell of an effort from the kid right there. Mr. Greatest basketball player of all time in Tennessee history. I'm going to say it. Dalton Connect is the greatest player in Tennessee basketball history. The run that he's on, man, just unbelievable. 32 points in 34 minutes. He shot 13 of 21 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. He had 6 boards, 3 assists, 3 blocks, 1 turnover.
Mama, there goes that man.
Man, it's funny. I went to the game today, like we told everybody on the live before I went over there. Well, I'm sitting next to my friend I'm at the game with, and I am like, man, mama, there goes that man. And he goes, what are you saying? I'm like, bro, first off, listen to the show. You'll catch on it. Second of all, man, mama, there goes that man. I mean,
there goes that man.
So, and I don't know if you caught this in the broadcast at all or not, Jordan, but they were talking, the guys who were calling the game, they were saying, who's a better player in college basketball right now? They're like, maybe Zach Edey, but Dalton connects to him way more for his team. Like, there's no reason he doesn't win the Wooden Award this year, in my opinion, barring an injury.
To me, with Edey, I mean, dude, he's what, 7'5"? What's he? Connect's doing it all. This dude, he just turns around and throws his arms up. He could drop it in the hoop.
Well, and what Dalton's doing, yeah, he's shooting, man. I mean, there was one in the second half where he pulled over on the corner over there and fell down while he was shooting the shot. Just didn't have good balance. Still made it. Like what this guy is doing, man, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee is lucky to have him, man.
He's got to be the greatest player to ever come from the transfer portal in college basketball history at this point. I mean, I don't know how you can say no.
Yeah, I mean, the portal's been around for, what, 3-4 years now?
Handful of them, yeah.
So I mean, that's not a huge. I mean, I hate to say it's not a humongous sample size, but it's really not. You know what I mean? Of guys that leave one school, go to another, and look like he has.
Yeah. Well, man, one thing too, I caught the post game press conference that he had right at the end. He's talking to Ron Slay on the SEC network. So shout out VFL Ron Slay. If you listen to this, man, come on the show with us. We love you, Big Slay. Love listening to 3HL every day out here in Nashville. But he was talking to him and he said, Dalton, what do you think about Tennessee? And he said, I wish I was good enough coming out of high school where I could have just played all 4 or 5 years of college basketball here. He's like, I love Tennessee. I love the fans. Vol Nation showed out once again today in Nashville, which is to be expected. I mean, you're
Right.
in your home state. It's one of the largest cities in America. And there's a lot of people who are moving here who love to wear the orange and white. Well, Dalton saw that today and he's like, man, I really am playing at such a special place right now.
Well, they kept talking about it on the broadcast today, man. How there was so much Tennessee orange in that place. It's
It
like,
was. It was loud for Tennessee, man. I mean, everybody was standing up, hollering and hooping and, anchoring down, as I like to say, and telling Vanderbilt they ain't Vanderbilt different.
you know
I
what?
mean, Tennessee fans showed up and showed out today, and it really showed, man. I mean, whenever you go on these cold spells and you run into different issues, the fan support, that's what helps you get through it, man. I
Yeah.
mean, whenever people are being loud for you when you're on defense, they're making the good amount of noise on offense, which in basketball, it doesn't matter how much noise it is when you're on offense if you're playing in front of your fans.
Right.
But it was just a lot of fun, man. But I think that's enough about DK3 right here for now,
You
because we'll
know,
be talking about him a little bit later.
oh yeah, of course, man. Of course. He gets plenty of airtime here, just like on the court.
Yeah.
But one thing I did want to kind of touch on for just 1 second. You mentioned Ricky Dale getting his technical. You were texting me, you're like, dude, this is bad. This is bad.
Oh,
Ricky Dale just got a technical. I'm like, Grant, buddy, that's gonna light a fire under some asses. And that's what it did.
it did. It took a little bit, but it did finally. But yeah, I mean, man, it just great point in the second half. Right around that 15-minute mark, Tennessee really pulled away and made sure that they were able to put little sister to bed, honestly. And that all came from Dalton Connect. Zakai Ziegler, another good night for him in 36 minutes, 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 6 from three, 2 of 3 from the line. Not the best. I want to see him get more attempts at the free throw line. I think that's what Tennessee really needs right there. But in this game, Ziggy did have 4 boards, 6 assists, 1 steal, 3 turnovers. Need to see that go down as well. But then he ended with a grand total of 10 points for the night. Now, the guy that I am probably most excited to talk about tonight, Santiago Vescovi, really started to do his thing again. 12 points, which is right at his career average. So,
Yep.
people who want to complain and say, oh, well, he used to get 20 points a night. Well, shit, guys. I mean, that's in the past. Look at what we got right here in front of us and who he's playing with now in a real offensive threat. Let's be
Right.
realistic. You don't have to worry about that. But in 33 minutes, Santiago Vescovi went 3 of 8 from the field, 2 of 5 from three, 4 of 4 from the line, which was massive. And he had 2 of those that came off that hook and hold call from the Vanderbilt guy. I cannot remember his name to save my life, but that was where 2 of those came from right there. And I was just like, okay, Santi's going to see these go through the bucket. When he does, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But he also had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and he ended his night with 12 points for being the second leading scorer of the Tennessee Volunteers. Josiah Jordan James in 28 minutes, 4 rebounds. That's all he
That's
got.
it.
No
4
points,
rebounds.
0.
Oh,
Where the hell are you, man? I mean, I don't understand this. Tobe Awaka played 6 minutes, 1 rebound, 2 fouls. Lots of running from him and Triple J. JP Estrella played 5 minutes, but his 5 minutes were extremely important for this team today. He ended the game with 3 rebounds, 2 of those being on the offensive end, but those 2 offensive rebounds turned into second chance points for the Vols tonight as well. So JP Estrella, I know you're not there yet. We're probably about another 2 years away from you really coming into your own. But man, we're loving what we're seeing right now out of the young kid. Freddie DeLeon played 1 minute, had a horrible turnover, and I
oh,
texted either you or my dad. I can't remember who it was, but I was like, well, we're not going to see Freddie again for the rest of the night. And we sure as hell didn't see Freddie again. Gainey just continuing his hot streak that came from that Alabama game right there in 15 minutes. 2 of 4 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line, 10 points and 1 assist.
He's
That's
finally
what you
playing
need from
like,
him.
yeah, he's finally playing like a man that should with cornrows.
Yeah, it's either that or go back to the temp fade, man. And you don't have to go back to the fade anymore. We'll
No,
allow it.
we'll allow that.
Yeah. And then another guy, man, kind of shocked me with what he did tonight. Jemiah Meshack in 13 minutes didn't even take a single shot. Got 2 rebounds. Both of them were on the offensive end, and 1 assist and 2 fouls.
Man, our boy didn't really do much.
Oh, and man, it's so crazy to me that he didn't do anything, because he's the guy who comes in and, he rallies the troops on that second unit.
He juices them up, man, and he just, it seemed like it was a very, I will say this, there's 2 things I want to say. It seemed like, from what I seen in the second half, and I seen the whole first half. The first half, easily the worst half of ball they probably played all year.
Yeah.
That being said, as far as the game goes, as a whole, in its entirety, that was probably the flattest game they've played all year.
Yeah, I mean, either that or Mississippi State would be one of the 2 right there. The difference in the Mississippi State game versus this one is Tennessee did come with a hello win column right there to shout out John Wilkerson with the Tennessee baseball team.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, is if they played like that against a team that was any better than what Vandy is, they'd have lost tonight.
You play that way against South Carolina on Tuesday, which we'll break that down with Andrew a little bit later, but you're going to walk away with a loss. You go up to Rupp on Saturday and you do that. I mean, you're going to come back with a 40-point loss.
You're going to get mollywopped.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand that, man. I don't understand why that was how it was, honestly, man. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with where you played. Memorial Gym, and I'm gonna go on this for just a second, is the toughest place to play in the SEC. And it's not because of the fans. It's not because of the team you're playing. It is, you are at a competitive disadvantage because you're not used to playing in that arena night in and night out.
Right.
Vanderbilt is used to it. They're used to Stack being on the other end while they're doing that. He's used to coaching that way.
Right.
He's used to all that, and you don't get that at the Food City Center. I mean, look at this beautiful arena behind me right here. You don't get that at the Food City Center.
No, it's just such a weird setup, man. And like you said, that might honestly be one of the most unique home court advantages in the country.
I think it is the most unique, honestly, because nobody else does it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Grant, buddy, who have you got as the player of the game tonight, man?
Man, I mean, it's hard to go with anybody else other than our guy DK3 tonight. And there's multiple reasons for it. I mean, you can go on and on and on about what he's done, but Dalton Connect had 32 points tonight. It is the 5th straight 25-point game that he's had. Second longest streak by an SEC player since 96 to 97. The other one was Devin Downey from South Carolina, 8 straight in 09 to 10. I mean, he's writing the record books every single time he steps on the floor. He's rewriting it saying, no, I'm DK3, baby. Let's go. I'm white KD. And it's kind of funny, too, in the post game that he did with SEC Network and Ron Slay, he was talking and they said, who's the player that you look up to? Kevin Durant. That was his answer.
Right.
But you have modeled your game after him perfectly.
He's done it very well. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Jordan, who's going on the milk carton today, man?
Oh, man. Triple J, where the hell have you been, brother? 4 rebounds.
I mean, he's not done anything in the past couple of games. I mean, no. 5th-year senior, man, you played a lot of ball. You've played at Memorial Gym. That was your 5th time playing at Memorial Gym. Let's be realistic. You should be used to how it is over there at this point.
Like, to quote one of my kids, bruh, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
dude,
4 rebounds.
Yeah.
4 rebounds.
Lots of freaking running from him.
My big ass could go out there and grab 4 rebounds.
Man, my short ass could go out there and grab those rebounds. I mean, it's just crazy to me. It's crazy to me because he was so good.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying he was so good at one point this season. He's been so good for so long. And I don't think he's going to stay this way. I don't think his
No,
face is going to be a
no.
regular on the milk carton like Santi's was earlier when we started the segment. But you got to improve on it, man. You want to win a championship. If Tennessee's going to get there, Santi and Triple J have to do what they've been doing.
Absolutely, man. Well, and that's one thing too that I seem to notice with him, at least from last year on to this year. Of course, now last year I get he was injured for a little while, but it's like he disappears for 2-3 weeks, and then he comes back out with a vengeance. So I'm looking for him maybe against Kentucky have
Fingers
a
crossed.
huge game
Fingers
coming up
crossed right
soon.
there.
You know,
I think that'd be massive if he could.
to go with DK, it would. It would. Because if we could have that big four, if Tennessee could get a big 4 or even a big 3.5, you know what I'm saying? Because he's
You
not
need one of the two
consistent.
fifth years to stand up, is what you're trying to say right there.
Right, right. He's not consistent. That's the problem. Or he's consistently inconsistent.
Well, and the thing on that too, man, and I know we're spending a lot of time talking about Josiah here, but since Jonas has came on, he's taken the back seat right there. And that's what you want out of teammates. With what
Sure.
Santi and Josiah have done, you want them to say, hey, I am not the best guy to win you games anymore. I'm the
Right.
old guy on the team now. But man, go out there and get us 10 points a game. That's all we're asking for. We're not asking for a whole lot, I don't think.
No, no. And he's more than capable of doing it. So it's one of those deals where it's just like, what are you doing, man? Are you gonna show up tonight? You gonna get off the bus? Because I'm pretty sure he stayed in Knoxville tonight.
I don't even think he left Charleston, South Carolina, honestly, after Christmas, if we're being
Right.
realistic right there. And to touch on Josiah, too, man, I mean, the McDonald's All American, 5-star, we all thought that he was going to be a one and done player. Well, he's been here for 5 years now, man. I mean, I wonder what his future after Tennessee really is starting to look like. Are you going to have to learn another language? Because, I mean, that's kind of where you're at right now.
Right. Yeah. And at this point, I think it's safe to say he is what he is. It's not a bad ball player. He's a great ball player when he plays up to his potential. But it. What else can you say, man? I think we've about beat that dead horse. What do you say we take a trip around the SEC, brother?
Man, let's do it. So, at the time of this recording, all games are final for Saturday. I'm not going to give you guys a look around for the midweek games because Tennessee was on the bye. And honestly, we've got another segment that I've prepared for you guys after this one as well. So, for time constraints, we're not going to do that. But shout out to the Alabama Crimson Tide for their midweek performance against the Auburn Tigers. Now, I know they had an issue with the lights not being able to turn on, which I don't know how the hell that's an issue because of weather is what they were claiming. But shout out to Alabama on that big win right there. But going into the games that happened today, which is Saturday, January 27th, Florida Gators had a 4-point dub in overtime over the Georgia Bulldogs, 102-98. Handligan, I don't even know how to say his name. I just butchered the hell out of that. For the Gators was their leader tonight, 23 points and 17 boards, where RJ Melendez for the Dogs, 35 points, 3 boards, and 1 assist. He was trying to act like DK3 out there tonight, man.
Right.
Whew. Another
Man,
game, and this go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're fine. They left the defense at the house for that one.
Yeah, they sure did, man. They sure did. Next game that we have on our docket for tonight was South Carolina versus Missouri. Missouri 8-12 on the year, 0-7 in the SEC. Man, rough if you're from Como right now. But South
Yes.
Carolina moves to 17-3 on the year, 5-2 in the SEC, and kind of like what we're going to talk about here in a little bit with Andrew, man. Third place in the SEC right now, where Tennessee's got that share of, well, no, Tennessee's in second because Alabama game went final. But Mac for the Gamecocks, 21 points, 5 boards, 1 assist, and East for the Tigers, 21 points, 3 boards, 7 assists. Tennessee's next opponent right there. If you guys are able to get to the Food City Center on Tuesday, make sure you're there. Vol Nation, got to show up and show out.
Yes.
Honestly, that is going to be a big thing right there. So next that we've got on the docket right here is probably what has been the most surprising game of the day to me, which was the Auburn Tigers, who I've went on here and said is a top 5 team in America. Well, you lost 2 damn games this week, Auburn. Let's be realistic. But final score on this one, the Mississippi State Bulldogs, they say hello to the win column, 64-58. Hubbard for the Bulldogs scored 17 points and 2 boards, where Janai Broom, who is one of the best players in the SEC, if you ask me, for the Auburn Tigers, scored 14 points, 7 boards, and 2 assists. Bruce has got some problems down on the plane right now, man.
I know it.
Rough week for them. They're sure as hell falling out of the top 10 now, man, after they fought so long to get there.
I know, and we hyped them big time last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was texting you earlier this week too, saying, I mean, man, maybe I'm even off on them being a top 5 team, honestly. And I'm just gonna eat crow right there, man.
Well, I want to say this to Papa J that comments on our stuff all the time on YouTube. He mentioned it. He brought it up. And he said they've not really played much of anybody.
They ain't played nobody, Paul.
I ain't played nobody, Paul. But his points be improving right now. So shout out to him. He's had a good idea. He made a good point.
Yeah. Hey, Papa J, send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We want to be able to interact with you a little bit. You know your stuff, man.
Yeah.
Next game on the docket right here, Tennessee versus Vanderbilt. Vols moved to 15-4 on the year, 5-1 in SEC play. Vanderbilt just continues to suck. I mean, I'm going to say what it is. 75-62 for Tennessee. DK3, just another way to submit your legacy, man. And then Tyron Lawrence for the Commodores, 21 points and 8 boards. Next game, and this one was a lot closer than what I had expected on this one. I thought Kentucky was just going to mollywop the Hogs. I mean, they were going to fry some bacon over there in Fayetteville today, but they really didn't. Kentucky, who had a really rough week, had to have a bounce back and kind of a get-right game after that South Carolina game. And I am not saying South Carolina is a bad team. I don't want anybody to think that.
No.
But they got beat. I mean, handily by South Carolina. But final score on this one, 63-57. Cats are victorious in this one. Reeves for the Cats, who is their best player by far, 24 points, 4 boards, and 1 assist, where Mitchell for the Hogs had 12 points and 13 boards and 1 assist.
Man, I bet the pucker factor was high in Bud Walton Arena for that one.
Man, well, I mean, they led pretty much the entire game. That one was on the same time as Tennessee, but I was paying attention to it on my phone while I was at the arena. Man, just really tough right there for Arkansas to drop that one, because you are still you moved to 1-6 in the SEC. They got their first SEC win, but yikes. I mean, this Arkansas team has just been decimated by injury this year. And then they had another player say he was leaving the program today. So, yeah, that's just getting worse and worse for them. Next game on the docket right here, man, the Crimson Tide of Alabama, who is currently sitting in first place in the SEC, 109 points versus LSU's 88. I mean, and LSU's a good basketball team. I've been on here saying that too. So to see them do that, man, makes me feel a hell of a lot better about what the Vols did on last week at the Food City Center. I'll say that. But Mark Sears for the Tide, 21 points, 3 boards, and 5 assists. And Williams III for the Tigers, 16 points and 3 boards. Then the last one, man, and I'm gonna ask you a quick question on this. Did you happen to turn on the TV for that Ole Miss Texas A&M game at all and see the uniforms A&M was wearing?
For a split second, but I wasn't really paying attention. It was more background noise.
So they wore home whites, but the letters and numbers were pink for breast cancer. Love that.
That's
love it,
cool.
love it, love it. One of the best uniforms I've seen this year in college basketball, honestly. Because I took a shower right whenever I got home before we jumped on here and recorded. Well, I had the TV on for the dog, and I walk out of the bedroom, and I'm like, why is Texas A&M's name in pink on ESPN? That's weird. And then I saw it, and I was like, man, I really, really like that. But Texas A&M was not victorious in this game. They lost to the Rebels from Ole Miss, even though they won the jersey battle tonight, which Ole Miss wore the powder blues tonight too, which are some of my favorites. Want to see more stuff like that. But Ole Miss 71, Aggies 68. Breakfield for the Rebels 15 points, 2 boards, and Wade Taylor, man, still keeping on a hot streak. 30 points, 6 boards, and 3 assists.
You know, Ole Miss, man, they bracketology has them right now in the first 4 out.
Well, they may not be after today. Now,
Right?
I mean, that's kind of crazy to me too, man. I mean, I will say this: they've lost 3 games in the month of January. Not really where you want to be if you're a tournament team.
No.
But you're wanting to tell me that Ole Miss team isn't a tournament team? You're crazy.
Right.
They
Right.
deserve it. They deserve it, man. But that has been our look around the SEC. All right, guys. Well, I do have one thing that I have prepared for you guys, and you all know I'm a hoops junkie. I like to see what's going on with the guys who've left the program, honestly. There's been a lot of guys who came in as high recruits and decided Tennessee wasn't the best fit for them, whether if that's something that Rick Barnes had told them or they came to that conclusion on themselves. But I was doing some digging the other night and I figured this would be something that might interest a couple of people. So, how about we talk about some former Vols, man?
Let's hear it. Let's do it. I like
All
that
right,
too.
man. Well, I've got 4 guys in particular I really want to touch on tonight. The other ones doesn't really matter to me, honestly. But the one that I think is the biggest interest to me is Olivier Cumwa. And the reason why I'm going to talk about Olivier Cumwa for just a second is because if Tennessee wasn't where they are right now, and you're having issues in the season, or you don't get a guy like Dalton Connect, and then obviously the season isn't what it is. But you've got, you know, basically what I'm saying is Olivier Cumos became the forgotten guy because Tennessee's doing so much better. It's like you get a new girlfriend, you go out in public with your new girlfriend, you see your old girlfriend, and you don't miss her because you got the hotter, younger girl with you right now. Well, it kind of works the same way in basketball. Olivier's doing really well for himself at Michigan, and Tennessee's doing well too. So neither party misses each other, I don't think, other than Olivier wishes he was on a winning team because Michigan's only won 8 games all year. But
Right.
Olivier is averaging 17 points per game, 7.3 boards per game, half a block per game, and 2.5 assists per game. Best year of his career by far. And he's really taken that leap to where I think some NBA teams are going to be taking a look at him now, where they wouldn't have prior.
Right. Well, it's one of those instances where, and a rare instance actually, where it works out good for both schools, where or both schools, both guys. You know, Michigan got something that they needed. Obviously, they need a little bit more of something. Having only won 8 games, but you know, Tennessee replaces him with Connect, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, and that, like I said, new girlfriend, she's hotter and younger. You're happy with the decision you made. It doesn't matter. You don't miss the old party anymore. And if Tennessee wasn't having the season we're having right now, we would be talking a lot about Olivier Comwa playing at Michigan, I think.
I would say you're right.
Yeah, I think
I
so
would say you're
too.
absolutely right.
Uh, Next, guys, and I'm not going to spend as much time talking about them, but Brandon Huntley Hatfield transferred to Louisville, another team that's just not really good. But he is a big piece on what they're doing. 10.5 points per game, 8.3 boards per game, a block per game, and an assist per game. Yeah, I
Pedestrian.
mean, I was so excited for him because he came in with Kennedy Chandler. Brandon Huntley Hatfield was actually the highest rated recruit Tennessee basketball's ever had. So just a little bit of a nugget right there. Really thought he was going to be a hell of a player, a one and done, and be playing in the league already. Things didn't work out at Tennessee. I'm not going to say what I know, but I know he was listening to the wrong person on the advice he was taking. That person was not good to deal with on social media. And if you guys have any idea who I'm talking about, you know exactly what I'm saying right here. Really tough for him on that. But Brandon Huntley Hatfield, man, you grew up in the state of Tennessee. The fact that you left really was surprising to a lot of us because I thought he was going to be a really big piece. And Tennessee could have a really solid power forward right now if he was still in Knoxville, I think.
Yeah, you're right. And you know, there was times where he looked the part of that highest rated recruit that Tennessee had ever had in basketball. Now he seems very pedestrian at Louisville. Of course, Louisville basketball is very pedestrian right now anyway. So
Ain't that the damn truth, man? Next guy I've got right here. Shout out Drew Pember. Went to my high school, Bearden High School in Knoxville. So go dogs. Not talking about Georgia. Not talking about Mississippi State.
Don't
Bearden
bark.
exclusively. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. But Drew Pemberman really doing great at UNC Asheville. 20 and a half points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 2.3 blocks per game, and 3.5 assists per game. They're starting just a little bit to talk about him as an NBA prospect.
Taking notice.
I mean, I want to see Drew do it, man. Really good kid, nice kid, pleasure to deal with every single time I've got a chance to interact with him. Wish that Knoxville would have worked out for him, but I understand why he did what he did.
Right. Yeah.
He needed a change of scenery.
He did what was best for him, and you cannot fault any kid for doing that.
I mean, you can't blame Olivier or Drew for what they did. Honestly, they both made the right decision.
Right.
So that, and then one more guy I do want to talk on. DJ Burns was a 4-star coming into Tennessee, was on that 18-19 team with Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield.
Yeah.
Still playing college ball. Tennessee had to go up against him with NC State, but he's still with the Wolfpack. 12.2 points per game, 4.3 boards per game, and 2.5 assists per game. Man, would I love to see him and Jonas Adu on the court together.
Oh, buddy, the Twin Towers.
It would be the most fun thing to see right there.
That would almost be an embarrassment of riches.
Dude, it really would be. I would love to see that.
Nothing to be embarrassed about.
No, and guys too, there are a couple of other guys. If you guys really want to see it, tweet at us. I'll do this on the next show. But there's still other guys out there too, like Devontae Gaines, Quentin Dumbouge, Hanjay Tamba, and Corey Walker Jr., who are still playing college basketball. Just not at Tennessee, but they did start their careers at Tennessee. So if you guys do want to hear that, tweet at us. We'll add it in on the next show.
Yeah, absolutely.
But man, I've got one more thing for you before we go to break. That just really pissed me off today.
Here comes the Williams soapbox.
It's coming. So, Jordan, have you seen what Texas did to BYU today?
Man, you kind of was telling me about it. I figured this was coming. Let's hear it.
Texas, you get butthurt over everything. I'm doing it right now. Horns down. Horns all the way down. You guys want to get upset at BYU, Brigham Young University, Mormons, because they're wearing a shirt that says horns down in the student section. And you went to BYU and said you need to have them take the shirt off. Well, BYU made the students do that, which was stupid. You don't bow down to Texas. This is why they act the way that they do. But here's the kicker on this right here. Texas, you're forgetting you're joining the big boys next year. You're coming to the Southeastern Conference, and you know how many times you're going to hear an FU Texas chant or horns down, or people are going to be wearing shirts like that in the stands. It's going to be every single game that you take the floor at in the Southeastern Conference. You are going to be the most miserable people making the move that you're going to make. We still want you. We see the value in adding Texas. The money comes from it. You have the fan support that is inside the state of Texas. And then you go from having little brother in Texas to having big brother. From moving from, just having A&M to now you have both of them. But Texas, you're going to be miserable because I'm telling you right now, people in Knoxville, Tennessee are not going to take off shirts that say horns down.
No.
People in Tuscaloosa are not going to do it. People in Athens, Georgia aren't going to do it. People in Gainesville aren't going to do it.
No.
And this is not going to be a personal foul when it comes to football. Let's be realistic here. I mean, Texas, you piss me off. You're a bunch of crybabies. You don't know how to act. And I cannot wait for you to be miserable in the SEC and then have to bolt somewhere else in 5 years, 10 years.
You know what? This your little soapbox segment here has got the wheels turning. So when they finally do come to Neyland Stadium, I say we do an orange out, Tennessee orange, horns down on the shirts, all over the stadium.
Oh, you know how upset they would be.
Oh, they'd be so bad. They'd be so pissed off they'd leave.
Man, that is what I'm waiting for right there. I want to see something like that. And here's the thing too. When Texas came to, when it was called Thompson Bowling Arena, I can say that. But whenever they came to Thompson Bowling Arena last year, There were so many horns down chants. The student section actually, so you know how they get those signs and they jump up and down with them. They got all that there on the poles. I hate those things. They block my view over in the corner when it comes to our side, is what it is. They had one where they made it to where it was horns down. It's normally like the metal hands like this, and they turned it upside down for horns down in that game. And I bet you they were crying. They were so upset they couldn't handle it. But
crocodile tears.
Man, I hate Texas. We're the real UT. Y'all would still be Texas. Y'all wouldn't be Texas. You'd be Northern Mexico if it wasn't for the state of Tennessee. University of Tennessee has been a school longer than you have been a state. That's all I'm going to say on that. But Jordan, how about we go to break? I need to calm down for just a second after all that.
Yeah, let's go to break on that one, buddy. Let's then we'll get ready to talk some Gamecocks next week.
Let's do it, man. We'll have Andrew on here shortly, so make sure you guys stay tuned.
Yes, sir. Hey, y'all. Jordan here. I wanted to tell you about our friends at Three Kings of Cardboard, the go-to spot to upgrade your sports memorabilia collection. Check out their Facebook group and eBay at Three Kings of Cardboard. I have dealt with them personally and will not deal with anybody else. My favorite item is my Jalen Wright 1-of-1 Bowman U Superfractor that they pulled me. Check out our friends at Three Kings of Cardboard today. If you're looking for the perfect Smoky Mountain vacation, Mountain Romance is your cozy romantic getaway. Starting at $129 per night, you get 2 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and this beautiful cabin will sleep up to 6 people. With an amazing mountain view, fire pit, pool table, and hot tub, this place has it all and is located within minutes of downtown Gatlinburg. To inquire, go to Airbnb and search for Mountain Romance or email bearslair2021@gmail.com. Oh, welcome back. We're here to take a look at the South Carolina Gamecocks coming to town next week. We got Locked On Gamecocks and Gamecock Digest writer Andrew Lyon on with us tonight, buddy. How you doing, man?
Jordan, Grant, I'm doing quite well, guys. Hope y'all are as well.
Man, yes, you know, you can't have a bad day whenever Tennessee wins, is what we always say. So it's a good Saturday night over here in Nashville for me.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, South Carolina just won their game against, at the time of this recording, against Missouri earlier today. That's their first SEC sweep they've actually gotten so far under Lamont Paris. So definitely a lot of excitement going on in Columbia right now.
Yeah, well, and we got a game against you guys here coming up on Tuesday. So how about we talk about that a little bit, man? Some of the notes that I've taken on South Carolina this year, you guys were picked to finish last in the SEC. And right now you're sitting in a share of third place with Auburn and Kentucky. So kind of what's went into the season and what has Lamont Paris done to kind of turn this ship around and really make some noise in the conference this year?
Yeah, guys, the thing that Lamont Paris has really done to change how things have been trending here in Columbia is he got a bunch of experienced players. If you go and look at what South Carolina did this past offseason, they got a couple players out of the portal. They got a BJ Mack from Wofford, who was one of the best players in the Southern Conference over the past couple years. They got a guy in Talon Cooper from Minnesota, originally from Morehead State. So he was a second-time transfer, one of the best point guards in the country in terms of assist to turnover ratio, and that has remained the case since he has joined the Gamecocks. And then Miles Studi from Vanderbilt. Miles Studi actually right now is injured. He has a shoulder issue that has been lingering since the Georgia game about a week and a half or so ago. So probably won't be good to go against the Volunteers this coming Tuesday night. But all those guys have brought something different to the table, and it has made South Carolina one of the oldest rosters in all of men's college basketball. And, in this sport, y'all, the thing that's great about college hoops is you see such a drastic difference in philosophy in terms of how coaches build their rosters. A John Calipari might go one and done, have a bunch of freshmen, 18, 19-year-olds, but they're super skilled and talented, and they're probably going to be playing in the NBA one day. And then for South Carolina, it's like, well, we probably can't do what Kentucky does. So why don't we just try to take advantage of the transfer portal and let's bring all this experience and these seasoned guys that have been around the block a couple times and they've been through very different situations throughout their careers, mesh them together and see what happens. And so far, that's worked out great for Lamont Paris in South Carolina.
You're right on that, man. I mean, Lamont Paris, in my opinion, has done probably the best coaching job in the SEC this year. I mean, you look at what he did, team that was picked to finish last, now you're in a share of third place, and, the night's still not over with yet. I mean, there could be even more movement on that as we're speaking right now, and we just don't know because we're in the studio. But, he's done a great job. We're pretty familiar with him in Knoxville just because his time over at UT Chattanooga, where he was the 2022 Coach of the Year for the SoCon. But kind of what went into that decision to move on from Frank Martin to bring Lamont Paris in?
Guys, I think the best way I can put it is Frank Martin got stale in Columbia. When Frank Martin took over the Gamecocks, I want to say it was for the 2012 through 13 season. So now, gee whiz, about 12 years ago at this point, the program was in shambles. Darren Horn had left it a massive mess. There wasn't a whole lot of talent left behind when Frank Martin had taken the job. And so I give Frank Martin a lot of credit for this. He stabilized the program and he made them competitive once again. And South Carolina kind of became that team where it was like, you weren't maybe worried about losing to them every single year, but you didn't like seeing them on the schedule. You knew they were going to be physical with you, and you knew they were going to play tough defense. And every so often, they had a really solid volume shooter, such as a Sandarius Thornwell, who played for that Final Four team the Gamecocks had all the way back in 2017. But what had happened is Frank Martin, he pretty much had gotten stubborn in the sense that he wasn't willing to adjust at all what his philosophy was in Columbia. And eventually, I think more and more teams just kind of started to figure out, how to play South Carolina better. And he didn't adjust his recruiting tactics off of that. And eventually just kind of snowballed to a point where South Carolina, they no longer even being competitive with some of the top teams in this conference, like a Tennessee, like a Kentucky, in past couple of years, like an Arkansas. And so the athletic department, I think, just kind of felt like that there needed to be a new voice in that locker room. And so they made the decision to move on from Frank Martin after above average season in 2021 through 22. They bring in Lamont Paris. Unfortunately, fields a roster where only about 4 guys had Division I playing experience. And so, of course, in year one under Lamont, they win just 11 games. And even though they had a G.G. Jackson, B.G. Johnson, who I'm sure we'll talk about more in a couple minutes, was on that roster, they just did not have enough skill. They didn't have enough depth. Lamont was really able to do what he wanted to do with last year's roster. And that's why, what I mentioned earlier with the portal, that was so important and vital for South Carolina this past off season. And you're starting to see this team play in the image that Lamont Paris wants this team to be, which is a team that's going to hang its hat on defense, take smart shots on offense, can hit the 3 ball at a pretty decent percentage, and quite frankly, just execute and make enough of the right plays that at the end of the game, they're going to have a good shot to win.
Yeah, well, man, you brought up G.G. Jackson right there. I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan, so I'm just loving what the kid's doing right now. He's been a great pickup for us.
Yeah, G.G., he was great at South Carolina, and the thing that people got to remember is he turned 18 years old when he was a college freshman. I think he just turned 19 this past month while playing for the Memphis Grizzlies. And so his ceiling is still up there. He's got a lot that he can still learn, and he has the potential on offense. I think that with G.G., the thing with South Carolina was he just had a lot of growing moments that he had to have, especially from a mentality standpoint. Sometimes get a little bit frustrated, let his emotions get the best of him. And a couple times, Lamont just had to kind of sit him and send him a message, that's not the way that he can act during those moments. And, I think that from what I can tell, that's gotten better since he's moved on to the NBA. And although you never want to see it happen through a bunch of injuries, which I've heard that's what's going on with the Grizzlies right now, I'm definitely glad to see him get that opportunity to showcase all his skill set at the highest level of basketball.
Yes, sir. It's always nice to see nice to see the hometown kid there from your school go do big things in the league. But you guys ready to talk this South Carolina game Tuesday night?
Let's do it.
It's going to be a fun one, boys. You guys are riding a 3-game win streak. Matchup predictor on ESPN's giving Tennessee a 91.1% chance to win. That seems a bit lopsided, man, because this game, when we started talking about it at the beginning of the season, it wasn't, South Carolina, they're going to be pretty good this year. It was like, well, that should be a win. Now it
was a free space at the beginning of the year almost.
Yeah.
Free space. It's not. This is a big game. I mean, 2 top 3 teams in the SEC right now, standings wise, playing Tuesday night in the Food City Center. Going to be a good one. You got South Carolina's averaging 68.5 points a game in SEC play, giving up 66.6. So you guys are playing tight in some tight games, man, but you're coming out on top.
Yeah, no, South Carolina, you're definitely right about that, Jordan. They've had multiple close affairs already in conference play. Mississippi State game, first conference game of the season for the Gamecocks. I believe that wound up being a 6-point game by the end. They just played again Missouri, depending on the time of this past Saturday. And the Tigers, they played South Carolina real tough. That was an overtime game as well when they played in the other Columbia a couple weekends back. Kentucky, weirdly enough, that's been their best win, and that came against the Wildcats in Columbia. So, although Gamecock fans, I think, thought they had a chance to win that game, I don't think anyone expected South Carolina to win that game as easily as they did. So, they've definitely had their share of, dominating wins in conference play, but also some games where, they've had to scrap, they've had to fight. And the thing is, I think South Carolina, they're okay with that kind of game, with the way that they play. They're going to try and get you into the half court. They don't want to let you run in transition all game long offensively. And, they're willing to take their time when they have the ball and, kind of drain the clock to look for a great shot. They'll pass up good ones for great ones. And the team, they've been in sync for the most part since SEC play began. And that's why more than likely this is a top 25 matchup when it takes place on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, and one thing I've said, and I was telling Jordan this earlier today too, how is the South Carolina team not ranked? It makes no sense to me right now. But after getting that big dub against the Wildcats and doing what you guys did on Saturday versus the Tigers of Missouri, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Where do you kind of expect South Carolina to be ranked in the poll come Monday at noon Eastern?
Granted, it would not surprise me at all if they put South Carolina right at 25 or 24 as kind of like, one last, okay, we've ranked you. Now let's see how you handle the pressure. I could absolutely see that kind of being how they treat South Carolina in the AP top 25 poll. But I think that for this team right now, although that's definitely something that they would enjoy to see, because as Lamont Paris put it after the game against Missouri on Saturday, they've put in a lot of work. And clearly he's seen that this whole offseason. I think that because of how experienced and how old this group is, it'll kind of hit them for the first hour or so whenever they see those rankings come out, as long as they're in the top 25. And then they'll move on from it and they'll be completely focused on the Tennessee Volunteers. And if you're a South Carolina fan, I think you got to like that mentality. Even though it'd be the first time, I want to say about 4 to 6 years that South Carolina might make an appearance in the top 25. It doesn't happen often around here. So when it does, fans, they have pretty good reason to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, there's not 20 teams in the country that are better than South Carolina right now, in my opinion. I mean, I would hope that the voters would put them in right around that 20 range, not just to help Tennessee if Tennessee's able to get a victory on Tuesday night, but I just think that's where South Carolina really deserves to be. Just a great team. And Lamont Paris has done just a phenomenal job with this bunch, kind of like what I said earlier. But it looks like you guys kind of have a big three right now with the three players that are doing the most. Michi Johnson is averaging 16.6 per game. BJ Mack, 5.4 boards per game. And Talon Cooper, if I said that wrong, correct me, but he's getting 4.3 assists per game. Is there anybody else Tennessee really needs to look out for in this game?
I'll give you guys a couple. So the first name I'll throw out there is Colin Murray Boyles. Now, Colin is pretty much the front court mate alongside BJ Mack. So he's kind of like, a quasi 4-5 guy, can play power forward, can play center. But the thing about Colin Murray Boyles, he's a true freshman. So obviously, Tennessee fans might like hearing that because you might expect that you can take advantage of that a little bit in this game. But Kyle Murray Boyles, he's going to be one of the more athletic front court players that you're probably going to face all season. He is a very tenacious defender. He's a guy that does not get just blown off easily when he's trying to defend someone on the low block. He's also a great off-ball defender. He's extremely twitchy, so he can get his hands on the ball. He can hit the ball out of bounds. He can create turnovers. And South Carolina, they like to try to take advantage of that when Kyle Murray Boyles makes those kind of plays. So that's one guy to watch. Another guy I'll throw out there is Jacoby Wright. Jacoby Wright, he kind of fits in with the experience factor that South Carolina has. He might not start like Talon Cooper and Michi Johnson do, but the thing about Jacoby Wright is, he's a very smart player, usually makes the right plays. I think he's a deceivingly good three-point shooter. I know that Kentucky fans, all they wanted to talk about was how, he was a 22% three-point shooter when this game started. He hit his first 4 threes. And, the numbers say one thing, but Jacoby Wright's got a good shot. He can hit mid-range shots. He hit the shot in overtime against Missouri to win that ball game against the Tigers. So he can make clutch shots when South Carolina needs one. He's another guy to watch. The last guy I'll throw out there is Josh Gray. Josh Gray is the big man for South Carolina. I say it like that because the Gamecocks play a little bit of small ball. South Carolina, their tallest player on the court when they had their original 5 out there, 6'8", 6'9". So Tennessee, if you still have that size in the front court that you've had in the past couple years under Rick Barnes, again, that might be something you might take advantage of. But Josh Gray is going to get minutes. He will rotate in. And he's kind of a hit or miss type player at that center spot. He'll have plays that he makes that make you think that he should be starting. And then he also might have some plays where he might fumble the ball away. And, you see why, okay, that's why he's kind of a rotational piece. But he's going to be that big body type of South Carolina, maybe struggles on the glass, and they need more of a presence on the inside against the Volunteers. So along with the guys that you mentioned earlier, those are some of the guys to watch for Volunteer fans.
Okay. All right. Well, Andrew, I got a couple questions here for you, bud. If South Carolina has an advantage in this game, what position or matchup do you feel like that's at?
South Carolina has an advantage anywhere. That's a good question. I'm going to say, Jordan, their advantage is the amount of shooters that they have. I think that last season, a big reason why Tennessee dominated South Carolina the way that they did when they played each other is because South Carolina, they just did not have a whole lot of shooters. They pretty much had Meechie Johnson. They had Gigi Jackson. And that was about it. And Tennessee, I remember, especially in that game in Columbia, they made it a point of emphasis during that game. They were not going to let Gigi Jackson have any openings. And they pretty much shut him down. And with Gigi Jackson being shut down, South Carolina couldn't do a lick of anything on offense. They might not have as many shot creators still like last year, but they have a lot more guys that can hit open shots if Tennessee does not rotate quickly enough. BJ Mack is a good example. He is your modern big man in the sense that he can back you down the low block. He is willing to play with his back to the basket, and he can make tough shots through contact. But BJ will also go on slip screens. He'll go behind the three-point line, and if your big man doesn't react quick enough, he gets a wide-open three, and he can shoot it quite well. So South Carolina, I'd say pretty much their whole starting lineup, maybe outside of Colin Murray Boyles, they can all hit the three ball, along with the Jacoby Wright that comes off the bench. Zachary Davis isn't three-point shooting is not a strong suit, but again, he can't hit them if you leave them open. So I think that South Carolina, that's something that they have leaned on in some games this year. The Missouri game that they just played a day or two ago is a good example. So if Tennessee is not fast enough on the rotations, South Carolina, again, with the way that they pass the ball, the way they will swing the ball around the entire perimeter to find a good shot, it will bite them in this game.
Okay. I can respect that. And I think I would agree with that just from what I've seen as far as watching you guys this year. I would that's a good assessment. Next question. Who's your best defender? And it kind of ties into this. Who's guarding Dalton Connect?
You'll get your answer with both those questions. I think the best defender is Zachary Davis. Zachary Davis is 6'7" wing. Defense is absolutely his calling card. He can make plays offensively, but defense is where he thrives. I would be surprised if anybody else is guarding Dalton Connect on Tuesday night but Zachary Davis. I expect that to be the matchup. The thing that will be interesting for me to see with Miles Studi not being able to play right now, Zachary Davis is having to play a lot more minutes. So if this turns into a game where, it's a tight one late, Zachary Davis might have to play 30-plus minutes. Who wins a war of attrition? Is it Dalton Connect, who's played 4 or 5 years of college hoops, or is it Zachary Davis? But Zach, I think, he's going to be the primary defender on Dalton. The one thing I will say about Zachary is he does have times where he gets a little bit too aggressive trying to jump passes, and he's just a split second off. He winds up running right past the guy, and I'm sure that's going to be a point of emphasis with Lamont Paris and this coaching staff next couple of days, because if you do that against Dalton Connect, he's going to literally connect on a bunch of shots that he puts up because of that. So Zachary Davis, I believe, will be the guy that guards Dalton Connect on Tuesday night.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been tough for anybody to have an answer on Dalton Connect the past month. So
For sure.
I'm hoping Zachary Davis isn't the one who figures it out, honestly. I want to see Dalton keep this hot streak going a little bit. But who wins the game on Tuesday night, Andrew?
I'll give the nod to Tennessee, mainly because home court advantage. And
Mhm.
I have to imagine that Volunteer fans, very knowledgeable fan base up there when it comes to their basketball, really all the sports, but basketball especially, I think that crowd will show up for that game because I think they will understand that, now it is an important game as far as the SEC race is concerned, as far as getting a top 4 seed for the SEC men's basketball tournament in March. So I think that crowd's going to be lively. South Carolina, I think, is a little bit better equipped to handle road game than they were maybe, say, in mid-December, where the only big game they had played at that point in time in the season was at Clemson. But I'll give it to Rick Barnes and that staff. I think South Carolina is going to make this game far more competitive than it was last year, which wasn't at all. But I still think that the Volunteers probably pull it out by a couple buckets on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have to agree with you, and I think Jordan does as well.
Yeah.
Just the more experienced team always seems to be the one who kind of gets that right there. And it's kind of funny you say that. I wasn't going to make the drive from Nashville to Knoxville for the game on Tuesday originally, but I am now because after I saw you guys beat Kentucky, I'm like, okay, I got to go see this, and then I'm making the trip to Lexington next week too, so it's going to be a busy week for me. But boys, y'all ready to play some start bench cut?
Let's do it.
All right,
get ready if you stay ready, brother.
There is one that we've got that's just for you, and then me and Jordan are going to jump in on the other. So I'm going to roll with the one that's just for you first.
Okay.
Who is South Carolina's most hated SEC rival? Start bench cut, Tennessee, Georgia, or Florida?
One question. Is this all sports or just men's basketball?
All sports.
All sports. Okay. Right now, it's probably Tennessee. Tennessee because of football. I think the fan base is absolutely hate each other's guts right now in that sport. And I think that kind of carries over to all the other ones. So I'll give Tennessee that nod right now. Next one, I'll go with Georgia because I'll bench Georgia because Georgia, I mean, the barking gets obnoxious. Let's just be honest. I think every single fan base in this conference will agree with that. And plus, with it being a primary border state, they've kind of been South Carolina's main SEC rival for a very long time. So definitely imagine that would be second on this list. And then cut is Florida because, I mean, yeah, they're a bit arrogant, but, besides the Gator chomp, South Carolina doesn't really go out of their way when it comes to Florida. It's just kind of like you like to win that game just because you kind of feel like that Florida's down right now when it comes to football. But yeah, no, I'll say start Tennessee, bench Georgia, and cut Florida.
It's crazy you're cutting Florida because that'd be our start in pretty much every single thing if Alabama's not on the list.
For sure.
I don't know.
We can't stand either one of them.
I got to agree with him on the dog barking, though, man. Grown men barking at each other. It's just weird.
It is. It makes no sense. Yeah.
No.
So next one, and me and Jordan are going to jump in on these next three with you right here as well. So in your opinion, who is the best coach on South Carolina's campus right now? Start bench cut, Shane Beamer, Lamont Paris, or Don Staley?
Oh boy, if this gets out to Gamecock fans, this might have some interesting reaction. All right, start has got to be Don Staley. Don Staley, I mean, 2 national championships, all the winning that they've done the past 7, 8, 9 years, bar none. You start her. Bench. Oh man, I've got to go with Lamont Paris. He has done more with less in a shorter time frame than Shane Beamer has. Now, granted, basketball being a little bit different from football, Lamont only had to find 3 or 4 guys for men's basketball. Shane, this past offseason, just got like 20-plus guys from the transfer portal for an 85 scholarship player roster. But I got to go bench Lamont, and then I'll say cut for now Shane Beamer. I'm not trying to make it out like if he has a bad year this year, he might get fired, but there's no question Shane's got to improve. Things have got to be different for the Gamecocks on the football field in 2024 if he wants to really get back into the positive graces for the majority of South Carolina's fan base.
Yeah, I mean, I'm carbon copy with you right there, mainly just because Tennessee fans absolutely hate Shane Beamer. I mean, he's probably one of the most hated people inside of the state of Tennessee, honestly, just after what happened in that 22 game knocking us out of the playoff race and Hendon Hooker going down with that torn ACL. And it wasn't even a dirty play. Hendon Hooker shouldn't have been out there, but him arguing with Kamal Haddon on the sidelines and all that, Tennessee fans just can't stand Shane Beamer. Jordan, who do you got?
I'm gonna start Shane Beamer because I hope you guys keep him for a very long time. I'm gonna bench. Oh man, that's tough.
Don Staley.
Yeah, you got to almost. You've almost
Yeah.
got to. If you're going to put one or the other first, you've almost got to put her on the bench. And then I'm going to cut Lamont. Who knows though, he could end up being a phenomenal coach for you guys though, because he's
Yeah.
done a phenomenal job this year.
I think he's going to be one. I mean, he's probably SEC Coach of the Year, so
Has to
it's
be.
hard anything on that. Okay, so next one. I know you South Carolinians love barbecue down there. I want to know
Yes.
best place to go get barbecue: start, bench, cut, Memphis, Texas, or South Carolina.
Ooh, Memphis, Texas, or South Carolina. I'm gonna be objective. I'm gonna say start Texas because I'm sure that the Texas, I'm gonna imagine, has a variety. And also, I just think that the cuts of meat that you get in Texas, it's just different than most other places. Bench South Carolina, I can't, first of all, I can't put them in cut. I can't do that to my state. And mustard based barbecue reigns supreme down here. It's phenomenal. You should get it if you haven't. Cut, I'll go Memphis. And the thing that I will say about Memphis is, from what I hear, I don't have it enough. But I think Memphis barbecue is a bit on the sweet side. And I think that when it comes to barbecue, you don't want too much sweetness with it. So I'll cut Memphis.
It is a little bit on the sweet side. I lived in Memphis for about 3 years, so I'm gonna start Memphis just because of my love for the city out there. Shout out 901. I'm gonna bench South Carolina because that's where my grandparents lived whenever they were still alive, and then I'm gonna cut Texas just because, hey, we're the real UT at the end of the day.
Okay, so I think I'm going to start Carolina. I like the mustard, the mustard barbecue. It's good.
Yes.
I'm going to bench Memphis because I like the sweet too. I like it all, to be honest with you. To me, there's no wrong order for this. I'm a
That's
fat
fair.
guy. I love barbecue, But and then I'm going to cut Texas, or Texas. Excuse me.
Yeah, because they're fake UT, horns
Fake
down.
UT.
But then last one I got for you, man. So South Carolina, any of our listeners out here who want to go visit, I want you to tell them which city is the best place to go visit. So start, bench, cut, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, or Columbia.
Gonna start Charleston. Charleston is just a really nice city to go visit. It's historic. The architecture down there is incredible. Plenty of good places to eat food. You can have a great time down there for a weekend, bachelor party weekend kind of deal. You want to do that, but it's also classy at the same time. So you could do a little bit of everything down there in Charleston. So I'll say start Charleston. I'll go bench Columbia. Columbia, I mean, it's the capital city. And sure, it might not be like other capital cities across the country, but Columbia, I mean, it's got a nice, small metropolitan area kind of vibe, college town. Columbia's got plenty of things to do as well, but it doesn't have quite the historic value that Charleston does. So I'll say bench Columbia and then cut Myrtle Beach. South Carolinians would tell you that as much as everyone talks about Myrtle Beach outside of the state of South Carolina, a lot of South Carolinians, they go to other beaches besides Myrtle Beach. Too commercialized, too many businesses, kind of takes away from it, in all honesty. So cut Myrtle Beach.
I'm gonna copy you right there once again. Love Charleston, one of the most beautiful cities in America, in my opinion. If it wasn't so dang expensive, I'd probably move out that way. Bench
That's
Columbia, lots of fun over there, but I don't want to hear Sandstorm another time in my life. And then I'm gonna bench Dirty Myrtle just because, like what you said right there. I mean, self-explanatory. What do you got, Jordan?
This is actually one of those rare occasions where, honestly, I think we're all going to agree. I like Charleston. I like the historical aspect of it. I like the idea behind the haunted ghost, the haunted tours too. I like stuff like that. That's cool. Columbia, I'll bench it too. Just like you guys did. I've been over there. Great town. I'd like to come back eventually. It was fun. I enjoyed the football game even though we lost. And then Dirty Myrtle, man. To me, I live in Gatlinburg. It's just like Gatlinburg with a beach.
Yep.
That's the best description I've probably ever heard of it, honestly.
Honestly.
Gatlinburg with a beach. But Andrew, man, where can our listeners find you at, and what are you kind of working on right now, man?
Yeah, y'all can find me over on X at @Lyon_SC. By the way, the Lion is spelled Lyon, not Lion. I only say that because I get that a lot more than you might expect. You can also find some of my content over on the Locked On Gamecocks podcast. You can find that wherever you get your audio podcasts daily, and also on YouTube. And if you're interested in reading articles on South Carolina and maybe the matchup against Tennessee in just a day or two, you can find some of my work over on Gamecock Digest on SI.com.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been a ton of fun, and we appreciate you jumping on with us, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, man, we've enjoyed it. You brought some good insight to it tonight, and we're looking forward to that big game in the Food City Center Tuesday night.
There we
Yeah,
go.
for sure. It's going to be a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, we will see you guys right before the South Carolina game with our preview. But thank you guys so much for listening in, and we'll see y'all soon. And as always, go Vols.
Go Vols.
This episode of the Vawlin Out podcast has been brought to you by our friends at Peace of Mind Enterprises. From construction, home remodel, down to general handyman services, Peace of Mind has you covered.
All technicians are licensed and insured, servicing East Tennessee with 30-plus years of experience. Call 865-202-7167 for a free estimate, because nothing beats having peace of mind.